Hey, welcome to the Spider-Man to Any% route guide. This is a comprehensive route guide, meaning it will cover the entire Any% speedrun with advanced and beginner strategies. Now, before getting started, I'll cover some questions about speedrunning this game. Start with consoles. The console you run on can factor in a few different ways. Generally, Xbox or the Xbox version on Xbox 360 is the best version to run on. On top of looking the best visually, it has slightly faster load times than the other consoles. PlayStation 2 is a somewhat inconsistent console, with some models being faster than others, and some seem to be faster than GameCube, while others can be a little bit slower. Seems like all of them tend to be slower than Xbox version. And just between you and me, it kind of looks the worst, but that's what you have, that's what you have. GameCube is generally considered the worst version of the game to run, with occasional frame drops when a lot is going on and slower load times. Also, that GameCube controller, with how much trigger pressing is going to be going on, it can be a little uncomfortable. But the important thing to remember here is actually, in general, it doesn't matter too much which console you run on, especially when you're just starting out. All these are similar enough to currently share a leaderboard on speedrun.com, and there aren't any major version differences, barring one or two, which we'll get to when they come up. You can also run on emulator, which is currently separated into leaderboards from consoles, although I personally recommend console if you can. This tutorial is being played on the Dolphin emulator, mainly for the gamepad input in the bottom left down there, as well as so that I have access to save states and stuff like that, which can be very useful for practicing when you're just learning the run. Either way, whichever version you play on emulator or not, Xbox, GameCube, PS2, whatever, this tutorial should apply to it pretty much no matter what. Now, categories. There are several speedrun categories for Spider-Man 2. This one's going to focus on Any%, and it covers the game from straight from when you hit new game right up until the credits roll. Because this guide focuses on the route, I won't be explaining general or advanced movement techniques too much. So I'll cover a little bit, but I won't go into too much detail. If you want to learn more about the movement, there is a sort of, I guess you could call it a companion to this guide, which would be the Speedrun movement guide tutorials, which I've put out, which are in a playlist that I'll link in the description. And whenever a certain technique comes up, I'll try to have a card for that technique's video pop up in the corner. Now, before the run even starts, there's a little trick that you can do to save some time. Before starting your first run of the day, you can build up your spider reflex meter by either swinging or beating up enemies. This is helpful because when you start a new game, everything is reset. Everything except for one thing, your spider reflexes bar. You combine this knowledge with a little known detail that you deal actually around double damage when your spider reflex bar is full. You'll find that first combat going much more smoothly if you go into a new run with a full spider reflexes bar versus an empty one. Now, since your bar is saved, and for the most part, it'll stay there, you generally only have to fill it before the start of the first run of your session of runs. So don't worry about having to do this before every run or something like that. Now, with that out of the way, we can start the run. Timing starts on hitting enter on name select. You can start by mashing to skip both cutscenes. Worth noting that when mashing to skip any cutscene, you can mash with both the listed button and start to potentially save frames. Now, once you have control, you can start by moving backwards into the right while charging your jump. To reach the corner, you can jump out of it and do a wall sprint jump into a swing, and then a jump out of that swing to potentially even reach the wall before your first stopped, so that you can jump straight up.
Welcome back, I guess.
And from there you can skip the cutscene. An alternate method of getting up, do a fully charged jump and then another one, and then some wall sprints to get up from there. Either way, press this token and then skip the tutorial and the cutscene after that. From there you can do a couple things. What I like to do is to do a fully charged jump into some swings before I'm cut off here. Alternatively, you could charge your jump halfway or so, and do a swing to keep going this way. Either way, you want to head north down this street, and the reason you're going this way and not towards the objective marker is because eventually you're going to be cut up from that anyways, as Peter realizes he needs to go to class. Make your way, kind of taking this path. You want to stop around here. If you're fast enough, you can actually get here before the cutscene starts, like so. Once this cutscene skipped, we're into combat. Once combat starts, you can take this first guy out by diving at him, hitting him with a spinning kick and then a couple of punches. Generally, the strategy is going to be to mash attack while facing the enemy that you want to take out. Occasionally, you're going to drop on the ground like that, then you're going to have to stop. Also worth noting that you can cancel any of your aerial hits with a swing, which is how you get from the first group of enemies to the second. Now, Briefcase Guy, as we lovingly call him, has taken the briefcase we need and he's leaving. As you can kind of see his left foot in the pause there. And the strategy to take him out is generally best to web, followed by punching twice. And out of that, you can jump to hit him once, which is just enough damage to take him out. So let's see if we can get this to work. You'll kick, jump out of it, punch. You generally grab the briefcase, and from there you can swing right to the trigger for that cutscene, which is over there. Sometimes Briefcase Guy goes the wrong way. There's not much to be done about that. You're just going to have to go a little bit out of your way to get the briefcase to the lady. Now after the cutscene, get the health drop if you need it, and swing over to Dr. Connor's class like so. And after skipping to the cutscene to Dr. Connor's class, there is this mission complete screen, which you can always cancel these. Basically the frame that they pop up with the start button. Sometimes you can also cancel it with the A button, but generally it won't let you do it right away, like with the start button. And this cancel is particular because it puts you into a situation where the game actually sort of freezes. Like it slows down, so that Bruce Campbell can tell you about, you know, pausing the game and all that. What you want to do is cancel the mission complete, wait like half a second, pause and unpause, and that tells the game that you know how to pause. If you try to like double pause right away, it won't work. You sort of have to wait that half a second for the game to like fully slow down time before you can cancel it. Anyways, after that you can sort of follow this route. We're actually going to the pizza parlor this time, and a little bit of disappointing news for the pizza lovers out there. There are unfortunately no pizza runs or pizza missions in this speedrun. You can sort of swing over here, jump by, and all you need to do is get close enough for that white mission icon to disappear, which will basically tell the game, okay, you visited the pizza parlor, we can move on. After that, we're going to follow this route, make sure to collect these specific secret tokens on the way there. That is the most important thing. We need the hero points that they drop. So get this one by the hospital here, top of the one previously, then swing through here. This movement's pretty tricky. With some time, it is faster than going around. There's this third secret token underneath the mission that we're actually going towards. Go ahead and trigger that. After that, generally it's gonna face your camera in the direction that you were facing when you hit the token, which is usually going to be this direction. But you want to head this way, so you want to head to the west.
I can't even remember the last time I saw Harry.
After that, there's another token here. You can kind of do a glide to get there if you want. Get that token, and you'll get enough points, which will trigger the next mission. If you missed any, if this mission doesn't trigger, it means you missed a token at some point. You get over here, hit that change marker. Be another cutscene. After this, we're going to be heading into one of the trickier combat sections of the game. There are these thugs that have taken over this art gallery here, and it's up to us to take them out. And there are a few, I'm going to teach you a few different ways to deal with these guys. But generally, the order of enemies is going to be the same. You want to start by kind of jumping over here. So you're going to jump over here. You're going to jump in the air and press the attack button twice. Drop to the ground and do a full ground combo on them. And that will be just enough damage to take them out. You can kind of do this for every single one. Occasionally, you're going to have to mix it up if you mess up like that. But the important thing is to keep it flowing. Again, jump twice to do the spinning kick and the single punch in the air. If you do two punches, you're going to be wasting a few frames. drop to the ground, 3-hit combo. After that, jump in here. You can use the... You can also jump in the air if you realize that you, like, for example, you don't have enough damage here. You can jump in the air to finish him off. Here's what a sort of full run using this strat might end up looking like.
Sorry, gentlemen, the gallery's closed. Time to wrap this party up.
Spider-Man! I'm gonna splatter you like a pollen.
Hey guys, are you here for the 2-for-1 on European Masters too?
It's worth noting, and this comes up a lot in combat, that you can get your initial spinning kick out faster by canceling your initial jump animation with a spin kick by sort of double chapping jump. Compare how long it takes to get a jump attack out normally.
Don't think anything here.
Pretty quick, but not instant, compared to canceling your jump animation with an air trick. You do it fast enough, you can do it like immediately once you leave the ground.
Remember,
And that's just going to, over the course of this fight and through the rest of the run, save you time. Alright, so these following strats are a little more intermediate to advanced level. And we are going to be using slow-mo combos on them. And in particular, it's not going to just be, you know, pressing slow-mo and doing a bunch of hits on them. As I described earlier, when you don't have full slow-mo bar, you actually do less damage than when you do, and that also applies to moves done in spider reflexes. So instead, what we're going to end up doing is go up to the enemy, do a jump kick, jump in the air with them, press the slow-mo button while you're in the air, then press the attack button twice and untoggle slow-mo. If done fast enough, this will retain the bonus damage that you get from having a full slow-mo bar, and will be enough to take them out. Like so. And if you don't do it right, you hold slow-mo too long, for example, you see it doesn't actually do as much damage, and he's left with just a little bit of health left. This is generally fine, you can clean them up afterwards, but you generally want to make sure that you are releasing the slow-mo early enough. And remember that you can sort of buffer your second hit while doing the first one. So it's like slow-mo, tap, tap, unslow-mo. That was a little bit slow. Here's a good example. There's another one. This will take some practice to get right, which is why if you're a beginner, I recommend using the other strat, or just straight up winging the combat, you know, just doing whatever combos you have. But it is a faster way of taking out these thugs if you're trying to save a few seconds. Finally, we have a more advanced version of the already advanced strat. Do the slow-mo hits, swing out, do another one, and then you can sort of link them together like that. This strat is, I'm mostly putting it in there because it is sort of the final version of the previous strat, but it is very difficult to get to the point where I don't go for it. But it's something that can be done with enough practice. I've seen a particular runner, youngster Joey, do it, and likely I'll place a video of him performing this strat over my attempts at it. But I'm putting it here because it will likely end up being the strat to go for in the long term. But it only saves a few seconds, so it's not a big deal either way. Now once all these are taken out, we will progress into the first black cat chase. Now this is the only true auto-scroller in this game, so it's your main chance to take a breather, but there are still a few things that we gotta do. And the first thing to notice is that Black Cat will actually wait for you at certain points. For example, right now, this is what you'd call a waiting point. And while if you're close enough, she will eventually realize and move on. If you're far enough away, she will just wait there. But the important thing about waiting points is that you can trigger Black Cat to move automatically once she reaches them by sort of waiting in spot and just make sure that you're continually moving. She'll immediately land, realize you're there, and keep going. Now compare that to standing at the waiting point and not moving. That's like 3 or 4 seconds of lost time just for not, you know, spinning in a circle there. And that will apply to pretty much all waiting points throughout the run. Now, once she's moved on from the first waiting point, you're going to want to go down here, deviating from the path just a little bit, and head over to the shop. Not a huge rush, just make sure you don't fail the mission. Now, in the shop, you're going to buy 3 things. So we can speed up level 1, 2, and grapple. You don't want to buy web zip because we need to get grapple to progress to the next chapter, and if you buy web zip, then it costs 1,000, grapple costs 750. You can't buy both. So make sure to buy these 3 in particular. For that, you can head on to the next waiting point. Actually, there isn't one here, but I tend to wait for her anyways. Again, you kind of can do whatever for the most part as long as you hit the waiting points. There is one over here. Cat gets here, I'm going to make sure that I'm moving. And she moves on. The next waiting point is over here.
My grandmother could keep up better than you.
Your grandma. Now that's something I'd like to see. If she gets much farther, I'm gonna lose her completely.
And here she comes. And then you can pretty much go straight to the end of the chase from there.
Shouldn't you be helping some old lady across the street or something?
So after the cutscene, you can mash start, skip the mission results screen immediately,
Who was she?
and then jump over this way and swing towards the marker. At some point, you'll get cut off by the start of Chapter 4. Generally, these chapter times are when we split, but really it's up to you.
Next time you have a chance, visit the store and check out what they've got.
So go ahead, jump into the vent, and once you gain control as Peter, you're going to walk to the counter and talk to Betty. Sometimes you get a roll like that, it's sort of buffered, it's a little random, and it saves like a couple frames.
Hi, Pete.
Skip these cutscenes,
I think that's the...
and then make your way outside. After you leave, it's time to take some photos. I'm going to head this way towards the Empire State Building, and this is one of the more movement-intensive sections of the run, where your height management is pretty important. I want to swing over here. This photo, you can swing straight out, and to the left, I guess it would be. Then jump up here. This is some more advanced movement that I'm showing off, and you can kind of just follow what I'm doing for the most part, but it doesn't matter too much if when you're starting out, you just want to get the photos.
Can you possibly claim I'm a...
Got it here, you can do a little cheeky swing to get up here. Turn your camera around while charging your jump, and do a vertical wall sprint bounce up here, followed by another one. Spidey jumps, they might be called. Make sure that you get this token. You're gonna jump out here, but make sure that we need the hero points that this token gives. So get that, and jump out here. If you line the swing up just right here, you can get a glide that will take you straight to where you need to go, and then jump in the vent. Again, spawn in as Peter. Walk over to the door here, which will trigger a cutscene. I'm gonna skip that, and then walk over to Betty again. Talk to her.
Hi, Pete.
Another cutscene. There's gonna be a mission results screen. You kind of have to time the pause to cancel this one. And then go ahead and leave as normal. After skipping this cutscene, you'll be placed in the Rhino fight, which can start in a couple different ways. Rhino's either going to charge towards you or run up and do a spinning attack. Either way, you're just going to dodge it and put him in a vulnerable state. Now, the way that we're going the sort of advanced strat for punishing this state is going to involve a technique called a slide cancel kick, which I have a tutorial on. But the gist of it is that you're going to slide towards the wall after attacking to cancel your attack animation, which lets you do another attack. And then I recommend watching that video to go into more detail, but hopefully just by looking at the input display, you can kind of see how this works. After you've done some damage to him, he will start to walk away. You're going to want to get his attention again by getting into his field of view, and then deal with that next attack he does. And then do some more kicks.
I'm starting to see why rhinos are endangered. See me.
Now if he charges, you can kind of go over here to get some more space, which then sets you up against the wall like normal. Something else I should mention here is that when Rhino goes for the charge attack, you dodge it, you will always dodge and end up to his right. Whichever direction his right is. So if he's facing this way, then you'll end up, on this side. If he's facing this way, he'll end up to the other side. So when you're trying to go for slide cancel kicks, that can actually kind of mess you up because it will put you over here and you won't be able to slide on the wall, and then you'd have to do the combo from there. Not a huge deal, but you can avoid this by canceling the animation of the dodge by clinging the wall. It's really as simple as holding towards the wall and using the same input to cling onto the wall and dodge the attack. So,
Better check it out.
Cling on the wall. You can even dodge after you cling on the wall like that.
Better check it out.
But you cling on the wall, drop off, and then do your combo. And that is a little bit faster than, dodging over to the side and then having to jump up to the wall again. But if you're on the other side, you don't need to do this since the dodge will just line you up against the wall like normal. If slide cancel kicks seems a little bit difficult for you, you could instead go for swing cancel kicks, where you, instead of canceling your attack by sliding off the wall, you're canceling your attack by swinging. In which case you can go straight into another attack. The main advantage of this is that Rhino does not need to be up against the wall to do swing cancel kicks. The disadvantage is it's a little bit harder and, in my opinion, about equally as difficult to learn, though. You might as well learn slide cancel kicks, but this is also an option. And not a terrible one to have in your back pocket if lining up Rhino against the wall doesn't work out. And the third and easiest way to punish Rhino would be to simply spam normal spinning kicks. Again, cancel the jump animation with an air trick, and then do a spinning kick, and then repeat.
Is that a horn on your head, or are you just glad to see me?
A little bit slower, but much more beginner friendly if you're not trying to stress on your first few runs. I recommend this strat. However, you take out Rhino, you can mash start to skip the mission's results screen, and then hop in here, sometimes fighting with the camera to get the hideout token that's in there. Now then you're going to scale this wall. I like to do it by jumping up, doing a single Spidey jump, and then swinging out. Get your forward momentum in here. Grab this last secret token, and then head out. I kind of like to go this way, over this building. At some point, you will be interrupted by Chapter 5, sometimes later than this. The start of Chapter 5 is pretty simple. We're just going to take this road north towards the marker. And at some point here, we are going to have to stop to get a secret token. Although ideally, you don't even really have to stop. You can sort of just line yourself up to the left here, and if you don't have enough height, you can do a little cheeky wall sprint jump to get it. And then swing off this building to keep going. Get up here, I like to just kind of get some speed and then wall sprint jump to where the token will spawn and change. Not much we have to do right here, just skip the cutscene and then sort of head back the way you came.
I believe I actually got to meet Dr. Otto Octavius.
And we still need a lot more hero points to finish this chapter, so we're going to head towards another secret token that's sort of nestled in this gap right here in the corner. You can get that and then jump up. A Spidey jump to then re-enter the road, heading through here. And now we still need actually a lot more hero points, to the point where tokens really aren't going to cover it. So sort of taking this path, you can head up here. That movement's a bit tricky, but however you want to get up here to this challenge race right here, which we are going to be doing to get enough points to reach the next chapter. And you need to, as with any race in the run, and there are a few more, you're going to need to get the mega time for it. The way to do that for this one is I recommend doing this, couple swings. If you know how to glide, you can do a little glide there, not very important for the most part. Do a couple rising swings here. And you're going to want to get under 18 seconds here. And the note is under. If you hit 18 seconds exactly, it's not going to count. So just prepare yourself for that disappointment, because it happens to everybody eventually. Either way, once you've hit that mega time, make sure to hit no. You do not want to try it again. And then immediately, you can actually start doing the next objectives for the chapter before it even loads in. Just getting these tokens. You kind of drop down there and swing your way over the next ones. But at some point, you will be interrupted at the start of the next chapter. There are a couple ways that you can get these photo tokens that Bruce Campbell's making you get. The jump from this first one can be a little tricky. What I like to do is do a sprint jump, and then you can do a pseudo web zip, sort of get over. Sometimes you might find yourself, either you mess up the pseudo web zip or whatever, and you end up with like a little bit less height than you want. You can kind of do some peaky wall sprint shenanigans to get up as well. And then from here, there's another pseudo web zip here. This one is particularly difficult, but if you do it right, we like to call that the gamer jump. Then you can actually make it without having to like climb up. But sometimes you mess up and you have to climb up, and that's fine too. After that, get this token, and this is important. Don't go for that last one. Instead, we're going to head towards the white objective marker over here and meet up with Mary Jane. The reason you want to do this first is because getting that last token will actually activate the black cat chase and stop you from doing this right away. Once this mission starts, you can head over here. I like to go this way, which is sort of a tricky path through here. Done right, it's a little bit faster than going around the buildings, however you want to do it. Whatever route you want to take there. Here's what an alternate route here might look like. After you've skipped that cutscene, we're going to head over and grab that last missing token. The path that I like to take here, land on the token, and then the black cat chase should start right away. There's a small chance the game sort of soft locks you a little bit, in which case completing a random mission will actually restart it, but very, very small chance for that to happen.
I'd know that silhouette anywhere.
Anyways, once this cutscene's skipped, we're going to start the next black cat chase. And this one actually works different than the first one. And every preceding black cat chase after this will work like this one does, where there's a little bit of rubber banding. So it's not a true auto-scroller. So get up here, the chase is going to start, and you're going to want to stick as close to it as black cat as possible. Having said that, we still need some more hero points. So immediately deviate and get this secret token under the bridge here. If you're fast enough, you can reach Black Cat and get her moving. There's actually a waiting point at the top here. He's going to move to the next one, and you want to stick as close as possible to Black Cat, so don't get ahead. Because the closer you are to Black Cat, the faster she moves, and the faster this section is going to finish. Again, having said that, we're going to deviate and buy some stuff from the shop. Here you're going to buy Swing Speed level 3. Finally, we're going to get Web Zip. And we're going to get Air Jump Off Kick. Again, catch up to Black Cat as fast as possible. Maybe a little bit faster than that, it's fine. There's another waiting point right there. You just saw her stop for like 1/10 of a second. Make sure to grab this token and then keep as close as possible to her. When she jumps, jump with her. And just keep her moving, because you're saving frames. Over the course of the run, this strategy of keeping close to Black Cat as opposed to just moving to the her next stopping point right away will save roughly 30 seconds. When she jumps, you can jump up here, get this token, jump with her, and then you're going to deviate one last time. When she jumps here, you can kind of jump, do a couple swings to get to this last token, get the last points we need to get to the next chapter, and then meet up with her to finish the race. You can mash start to skip that results screen, and then go ahead and jump and swing towards the next chapter. And before we continue, there's actually a little side note that I want to make about WebZip, since we have unlocked it now. If you found yourself particularly missing WebZip, like, oh man, why is it this long into the run on WebZip? I want you to consider that possibly you are using it as a small crutch. It is a common beginner strategy to just WebZip everywhere. It is way slower than swinging. Generally, you want to use WebZip as a course correction system. So like, oh no, I overshot that thing, let's head this way, you know? But you generally don't want to like double WebZip anywhere. It's actually a blessing in disguise that it is this late in the run, because it will teach you to rely on your swings more. Not saying to never use it, but just don't overuse it. Anyways, at the start of chapter 7 here, keep your height. You can kind of swing off of this building, get a glide, and then
Black Cat seems okay. Maybe a little bit of
get your way into the Daily Bugle once again. And generally going on from here is every time you enter the Daily Bugle, the first thing you're going to do is leave the Daily Bugle. But there is also a sort of random time save that can happen here. You may have noticed I spawned around here, but there is a chance, it's generally agreed upon to be somewhere in the realm of 1 in 5, if not a little bit lower, that you will spawn here instead, which is obviously a time save of the few seconds that it takes to walk to the bathroom, since the change point is right there. We call this bathroom spawn for obvious reasons, and it can happen here, and there's another time in chapter 13 that I'll bring up that it can happen. But generally, if you get bathroom spawn, just count your lucky stars, take the time save, and move on. If not, it loses a couple seconds. It's not a big deal.
Quentin Beck's gonna prove I'm a
To start here, we're going to head this way. There are a couple routes you can take here. You could either head sort of down here, zigzagging across the building, or you could swing this way. It's a little bit tougher, but a little bit faster. You can get a glide and cancel it right away to increase your terminal velocity to drop down here. And once you're in, you can kind of just jump across to get in. Now we're at the infamous Quentin Beck arena section of the game.
Ready, Spider-Man?
First thing that you want to do for this section is jump over here, grab a guy, and throw him in the red pit. Now you might think you want to throw him in the green pit to earn points, but the ultimate thing to remember is that as long as you win, it doesn't matter by how much. The pattern here is going to be swing the guys in here. Sometimes that happens. That's actually a good thing to point out. Sometimes that guy just goes flying, and he'll usually land somewhere in that area, somewhere in like this area. It's just a weird quirk of the momentum physics where like webbing a guy, you know, just by pressing Y in diagonal. If they hit another guy, there's a chance that guy likes to just fly into the stratosphere, and he'll usually land somewhere around here. And again, these strats it's pretty tough to do it as efficiently as I'm doing it here. It really is a little bit harder than it looks. But generally try to just follow this structure. You can get to a 2 or even 3-fer, that's really nice. Then swing these guys in. If you're fast enough, you can actually swing that guy who's usually lurking somewhere around there in the gate. You notice that you're lacking on points at any given time, you can like deviate slightly like I did just now to throw a guy into the green pit, since ultimately you do want to win. And sometimes this can happen. I was hoping it would, because this is a teachable moment. See this guy right here? His AI is still active. He's in the pit, but it did not count him, and that happens sometimes. It's really unfortunate, and one of the things that makes this section really kind of annoying, even at high level. It seems to happen more often when you swing guys into each other and like multiple of them land in the pit, like, or at around the same time. but there's no guarantee that it's going to happen, so you kind of just have to react to it immediately, like, oh, the second, you know, there's no guys left, but the next phase hasn't started. So then you would go in here, and eventually it will reset itself like that, but you would just grab the guy, jump up, and throw him back in the pit. Like, exit the pit, and then re-enter and throw him in. Anyways, we're just going to do that a few times. If you do it perfectly, it will end up looking roughly the same each cycle. Get these guys. Jump over and get these guys. Loop around, get these guys. And then get these last two. And it's worth noting that the, one, there are 3 cycles, so this is the third and final round. And 2, the places where the pits light up are random. It will always start on the same one, but from there, where it goes next is random. So there is a potential that even taking these strats right, you might just get unlucky and lose on points. In which case, you might have to get a, you know, go out of the route a little bit and improvise to get those points back. But this time I got very lucky with the placement, and Quentin Beck is not even close to beating me. So once you've won, you're going to go on to this next bit, which can be very difficult for newcomers, and I'm going to show you a few different strats to get through it. Either way, you want to start out, you can kind of just do some slightly charged jumps to get over to this one. And from here, let's start out with the most advanced version, to get it out of the way. Sort of, while you press the button, you can align your camera sort of this way. Charge your jump fully, swing out of it, and you're going to do a couple boosted swings with jumps similar to that. Doing so will get you across there without getting shot, and then you can press the switch. Here is a more intermediate version. Do a fully charged jump up here. Line yourself up this way. Do a couple fully charged sprint jumps to get across to get to the button. Now, if that's too scary, here's a more beginner-friendly one. Jump up here. Get yourself to this thing. Jump across. Get yourself here, and jump across again. And then get up here. However you get up here, you can press the button, jump off, and do an uncharged sprint jump and a web zip, making sure that you web zip at the correct height so you don't get shot. After that, hit this one. This one doesn't matter. You are going to get shot here, so you can just do a charged jump to get across. Sometimes you get stuck here. Don't be too scared when that happens. Usually you will be able to sort of hover your way through. And even if you don't, just hold climb and then climb up, and you should be fine. For this one, you're going to press the switch and then do a fully charged sprint jump diagonally to the next one. So generally, you don't want to get shot there, and if you do, you're kind of in a really, really bad spot. I would actually recommend, you can kind of go for like a Hail Mary jump here, and hope that he doesn't shoot you, but if you're slow enough, most of the time he will, going for that switch there. But the good news is, if you fail this mission in the second half, you actually don't go to the beginning of it, and you can instead get a pretty easy 2-cycle, because it will actually spawn you roughly halfway through. Right here. You can do this. You can just go for this jump again. So here's an example of what this would look like done correctly the whole way through. And it is of note, especially the later you go here, going fast is the way to do it consistently, because there is a cooldown that is in effect when he shoots you, where you kind of can't get shot again afterwards. And we're going to kind of abuse that right here when he shoots you to get through pretty scot-free on this one. You can see he didn't shoot me, whereas if I took my time, then he would there. And it's fine if he shoots you here as long as you've got the backup. Anyways, that's pretty difficult to 1-cycle as a beginner, so don't worry about it if you have to do a 2-cycle, but you can mash start to skip the results screen there, and then head through here. I like to swing off the trees there. For some reason, there's not very many things that are easy to swing off in the area. And then you're going to head towards race 64 here. And again, like the previous races, we're going to do this and mega time it for the hero points. This is one of the quickest races in the game. The easiest way to do this is through the infinite wall sprint. Go ahead, charge your jump, and then do some infinite wall sprints. There are a few ways that different people like to do the inputs for here. What I just showed was sort of alternating the buttons, but you can also jump up and kind of treat them as like one button, holding them both at the same time. Alternatively, you could Spidey jump your way up, which I think is a little bit slower, but it's really more about comfort here. See if I can get that. Like I said, a little bit slower, but still works. And then I've seen people do this before. I've never really gotten it to work too well, but you can just charge jump your way up. That barely worked, 0.1 away. Yeah, I don't recommend that unless you like really don't want to learn the infinite wall sprint. But either way, make sure you get the mega time. And then from there you can kind of web zip to get your momentum started and swing your way. I like to go through this hospital, and if I can even get a glide, start chapter 8 here. We're going to start chapter 8 by moving towards the objective here. We're going to make a quick pit stop in the shop up here and buy a few things. You're going to buy swing speed level 4, level 3 air combo, hero punch, and level 4 air combo. And then we're going to head out.
Hey, yo, Spider-Man!
Swing through here. You have the momentum. There's a couple different ways to actually deal with this movement here. Swing up. If you have the momentum, you can kind of go over and around here. And then there's a much harder way that you can go that's a little bit faster. You can go over the building. If you do it right, you can even get a glide over the building, but that's really tough. Anyways, hit this change marker. I like to sort of line myself up to the south here because the camera angle will be stored based on where Spider-Man's facing. And once you spawn in, head the same way you did last time. You left here, down to the south.
Dr. Octavius' theories are amazing. My head is still spinning from talking to him.
And eventually Spider-Man will realize that he is late for something.
If I hurry, I can still make it in time.
And once that pops up, there's a couple different ways you can go here. I like to go over these buildings here, but you can also go, you know, could instead sort of go this way and loop around. The way you want to get within 50 units of this and then keep moving. To get within 15 units, eventually the sort of cutscene will trigger. After the cutscene, you can head over here and fight all these guys. And the general strategy here is just spam air combos. Drop down, swing in between them if you're fancy. Right out of the swing, you can cancel it into another combo. Sometimes you're going to land on the ground like that, which is fine. You can just do a ground combo and then jump back in the air and continue your stuff. Now, the instant that you spawn back here is a pretty important strat involving this sniper. You want to jump over here and get on the front of the truck so that you are on it like this. And the thing that we want, we actually want the sniper on the back of the truck to help us take out the truck. If you're lucky, while you're fighting the truck, you can see it happened right there. The sniper shot the truck and did like half of its health. Doesn't always happen, but that's what you want. From there, a couple air combos on these guys to take them out. And then you can just leave. Don't need to worry about the sniper, he's fine. Here's an important point. The game can crash when entering this trigger right here. Generally happens if you swing right into it, like that would be considered a risky swing. The way to avoid it is generally to move not too fast while you're going into it. So it is consistent if you avoid it in the right way to not actually trigger it. The way that you can do that is, you know, you enter here, and it's like, okay, let me just drop into it real slow like that. That's generally what I like to do. And, you know, after a while, you kind of get a feel for how it works. Like, that's bad, you know, generally don't swing once you've turned the corner there to where the trigger is. I'd recommend on your first few runs, just jump into it from, like, below or something. But yeah, just don't swing into that cutscene trigger or, like, right before you enter the cutscene trigger, and you should be fine. Because after this cutscene is the next Black Cat chase. Which again, you're going to want to stick as close as possible to Black Cat. Save those frames.
Maybe so.
Nothing too complex here, just sort of follow the route that she does. Stick real close to her.
How far is this place?
Not too far. Just stay with me.
Skip this cutscene. And then up here, there actually is a dialogue skip that you can do for Cat here, but first you gotta follow her a bit more.
You're getting a lot better at following me. I think there may be hope for you yet.
Hey, I was just
Jump
going
across,
easy on
and
you
then
before.
around here, he is going to stop and then make fun of you or something,
Like this? Come on, let's
which,
go.
you know, takes a few seconds. But if you pull up the map the instant that she goes into that pose and then close it immediately, she just leaves. It skips the dialogue completely. Don't ask me why. It just works. Anyways, from here you can kind of deviate, go ahead, wrap around, get this secret token, and then get back to her as quick as possible to start saving those frames again. And then when she gets here, there's a couple different things you can do.
You're
So you can
finally here.
either
I was just about to set
go
up
as
before
far
the
ahead as you can while she's talking.
Let's go.
You want to get towards the end of the trigger.
You're so tiny.
But if you go too far, you will fail the mission. If you go too far too fast,
There
you
they
do have
are.
to wait for her to start moving again. Which is why you could instead
You're
charge your
finally
jump
here.
and cancel that dialogue in the air with another map, and then quickly make your way
Oh,
to the trigger.
Nice night.
And the second one is only faster if your movement is also very fast. So starting out, you are going to want to go with the first option. Now, once this fight starts, you want to drop off and then swing across to this guy. Take him out with a forward air combo. The thing you have to recognize about this fight is the physics are actually way different. This is because Black Cat is here. What you actually want to do is, instead of swinging between the targets like you would normally, you just kind of have to be right below them and then hit them with a spin kick. Otherwise, you kind of, I don't know, the lock-on doesn't quite work the same. Let me see if I can kind of show you. Like, normally, from here, you would just lock on and hit, but it doesn't seem to work very consistently, so instead you just want to be around them normally. But yeah, just hit them all with 4-hitter combos. Here's what, like, a decent fight would look like.
Spider-Man.
All right, fellas. Show me the Monet.
If they're far enough away, you can swing between combos here, but in general, it's just best to kind of get up
Hanging in there, Cat?
right next to them before doing an air combo. And then, as soon as that cutscene ends, you want to get a jump out before this mission complete pops up. But once that does, you can kind of cancel it, and then head over here. The way you do this movement is actually pretty particular. So in order to do this movement optimally, you do want to be at like a certain height. Kind of try to maintain the height that I'm doing here, because you want to get a glide here. This is more for more advanced type movement, but it really doesn't matter how you get to the Daily Bugle here. But being able to hit that route in particular, I find, is way faster than if you lose too much height, and then you kind of end up just being way below the buildings. Only a difference of a few seconds, not going to matter too much. Anyways, head into the Daily Bugle. This is actually important. If you're fast enough, probably won't this probably won't happen on your first few runs, but
How wasn't I
if
watching?
you end up being fast enough, you can actually get to the Daily Bugle grate early, like before Chapter 9 starts. Do not jump in before Chapter 9 starts. If you do, you will cause
I can't
a
believe
soft
Cat
lock.
did that.
Either an infinite loading screen, or you end up in the Daily Bugle and the mission isn't activated. To undo the soft lock, you would have to save the game and load it, so you really don't want that to happen. It's pretty much an instant reset. Yeah, just wait until Chapter 9 starts and then jump in. Most of the time you won't be anywhere near there
I
when
don't
it
see
starts, but
anyone
it's something to
around.
keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind
You're looking a little down.
is
Girl trouble.
this cutscene can also soft lock the game. If Peter, listen for the loading screen, before Betty starts actually talking in the cutscene, if you hear Peter go, "Oh, I don't see anybody around," do not skip the cutscene right away. Wait like a second. Half a second probably, but a second to be safe. Because if you don't, you will get the spider ghost glitch,
I don't see
which
anyone
is
around.
not a good time. I mean, it's fun. It's not a good time. You don't want it. We'll pretty much fail your run instantly. Not fail it, but you'll lose like a couple minutes getting rid of it. So not a great time. Anyways, go ahead and leave the bugle. Get this cutscene.
Okay.
And then it's time to head to the theater. You do want to stop by the store right here. And grab Swing Speed 5. And that's it. And then just head over to the objective. I like to do a glide here. Kind of gets my momentum going at the bottom. And then if you're really good, you can get a swing into this door. And then from here, you can kind of do a rising pseudo web zip to get in. And then when you land, you usually like slide down here. You can kind of do a cheeky little uppercut to save a few frames and get into the trigger for the cutscene early. Now, theater. This can start a few different ways. Either this robot will hang outside there, or he will rush up to around here. Either way, you're going to intercept and hit him with an air combo. Yeah, there he goes. If he stays out there, instead of doing a forward air combo, you can actually do the final hit as a jump-off kick, which will then let you do a rising pseudo web zip to the robot up there, and then you can swing down here. If the robot doesn't do that and instead comes out, you can just intercept him and then do a fully charged jump to get up to this robot and then proceed as normal instead, swinging out after the left to hit this guy, grab this guy with the web when you land, and then swing over. And the way that you get these guys and the ledges over can depend. You can either do the safe kind of fully charged jump and swing over, but you can also, if you're feeling a little cool, you can do a sprint jump and a swing to barely get yourself over there. From there you want to swing over here. This robot can act a couple different ways. He can fly out ahead like he did there, in which case you would actually just grab the civilian first. But normally you'll stay there. You can get him and then swing over and get this guy. If instead he's not, and this applies to all the robots in the stage, if they're not really in a position that you feel comfortable with hitting, you can always get a civilian and then come back for them later. So for example, pretending that robot went here, you would get the civilian, go back, and then swing back over here, get the robot, and then get this guy instead. That's right after you get the robot. So theater is all about adaptation like that. The more you do it, the more you kind of will realize what the right play in any given scenario is. Often that robot will be just kind of chilling against the wall. This one will usually be over here. And this one will... sometimes they get stuck back here too. Wow, that's you don't want them to be stuck that far back. Don't wait long enough to get them stuck that far back. These guys often give people a lot of trouble because, you know, they think they can just like swing normally, and sometimes that works. Sometimes you can swing up there and get them, but often what will end up happening is you go to swing and you end up like swinging over here, and then things get really rough, and you can do some wall sprint shenanigans to get them up like that. But generally what you want to do for the most consistent experience is kind of stay back here and do your charge jump like forward around here. And that lets you do a nice big arcing swing to get up. Here's all in one what a decent run of this might look like. Intercept this guy. Him, swing over. Don't want to boost on that swing, by the way. You will often go too far to actually hit the robot. That guy, you can, if you want to be really fancy, you can get that guy on the way over from your swing. Another point of advice is you can grab the reporters while in the air, which lets you drift in the air while, you know, getting you a little bit of extra mobility while you're grabbing them, rather than being sort of locked in one place when grabbing them on the ground. This cutscene, for some reason, isn't skippable, so nothing to be done about that.
You have no chance to survive. Make your time.
Afterwards, you can mash start to skip the mission results screen afterwards, and then just start heading south.
If he's attacking Lady Liberty, I'd better get over there in a hurry.
I want to line yourself up to get enough momentum over this building, and then you can do a glide up here. I like to do this, swing off the tree, this tree. It really doesn't matter as long as you get there one way or the other. And then here, you want to fall in the water at a certain point in particular. Generally, I like to use the number, as in the distance to the cutscene that we just skipped, which I didn't really mention. Yeah, you don't need to go to that cutscene trigger. You can just skip it. Use the number as sort of a gauge. We want to actually fall in the water on purpose here, so that we will wash up on Liberty Island, which is faster than going there. And the distance that I like to gauge is generally go at this angle, and if you're over like 550 or so, you're probably safe. I like to be somewhere in the realm of 575 plus. But then yes, you will wash up on Liberty Island. After that, there's a couple things you can do here. It's a little scary looking, but you can actually drop off and swing directly onto, just tap, jump, drop off, and then swing on the platform, which will bring you up. You can also just climb up and do that if that feels safer to you. Whatever the case, you want to get orbs here. And there are a couple different ways to do this. So you can either go with the grain, which I'm going to show up here. You kind of hit the orb, and then swing over and web zip. If you accidentally swing off the one in front, you can kind of just do some rising pseudo web zips to get up, or jump out immediately and then swing on the one behind you to get back on track. I generally just hold the stick to the left. I find that gets me the most consistent one. And that works. Here's also a good example of how much punching while in the radius of the orbs will actually hone you in on them, and the range of it, as you can see, is very, very big. Like, do not underestimate that. That is a very useful tool. Yes, once you get all the orbs, swing over. Same thing on the radius of the brain, and just take that out. But the more difficult way to do that would be to go against the grain. So for that, I recommend keeping your jump, having a charge jump ready as soon as you destroy it. You swing out to the right or left, depending. We'll get to that. Jump out of your swing immediately and then web zip after. This one's a little bit more difficult, but it does save like roughly 5 seconds.
Okay.
And there's one other thing about these orbs, which is on Xbox 360 in particular, the orbs rotate in the opposite direction. We don't know why, they just do. So, same advice applies, it's just reversed on Xbox 360. Another thing is, if you want to save some extra frames, you can combo this brain in a particular way. You can do a 4-hit air combo, and then the instant that the 4th hit comes out, you can do a slide cancel, similar to against Rhino, to cancel the last hit of the combo, and then go straight into the start of another combo, which will finish up the brain. Like that. After the brain, you're going to swing over to the north, and there are a couple different routes you can go here. We'll start off with the more advanced route, which is to go diagonally across here. The swinging here is pretty difficult to not go off course, but it can be done. Gonna loop through these streets, and this is a more direct route than the one that I will show afterwards. Alternatively, instead of going off to the right here, you could just keep taking this road straight. I find this route to be a little bit easier, maybe that's just familiarity speaking, but it is slower. In which case you would instead take this way. Basically take the last street on the left there. And then go straight into the window.
Wow. Mysterio's hidden fortress looks just like an apartment.
Something of note about those windows is that you actually can't enter through the top. Like if you were to climb in from the top, it actually still works on the interior. It just works the same outside, it just doesn't let you. Climb in from the sides at the bottom, or better yet, just bullseye it in. Yeah, not much here, running. And we've got some clowns to fight. Now, my preferred method of fighting them is to start off with the hero punch for this one, combo into an uppercut, and then start doing multi-kicks. Get them in the air, you can do some combos. Multi-kicks are something that are very strange and hard to explain how to do. But it's sort of a timing thing. I like to think it's almost like a galloping of the horse on your controller, and that sounds weird, but if you can kind of see my inputs, where I just kind of boop, boop, and I almost treat the attack and
What's going on?
the attack and jump button as like one button, but I also try to hit the jump button maybe very slightly before the attack when I do it. It's hard to describe. There's a triple there for you. But I'd recommend just trying to sort of replicate the inputs that I'm doing here to do them. Not actually necessary for these fights, and I'll show off a couple other strategies that you can use in fighting them. Like I said, you could hero punch I like to hero punch uppercut here. Then you can dodge and counter, and then go into multi-kicks if you want. Otherwise, you could do 3-hit combos, and then dodge and riposte counterattack. Of note, there are actually multiple counterattacks you can do depending on the direction that you're holding when you dodge, and the uppercut is the fastest one. And as far as I'm aware, they do the same damage. I could be a little bit off about that, but I like to do the uppercut. And you can actually jump out of that and do more combos. It's kind of really difficult to impossible to tell when you're going to send them flying. So all I can tell you about strategy is to try to keep them locked on the ground with moves, and because they tend to fly a little bit more in the air, but it's not guaranteed. And then when they do fly, you usually want to take care of the enemies that are near you, or at the very least try to send them flying in the same direction before you go, chasing across the room for a clown and then have to go back. That's what is important is when you
guys are such
When you finish the encounter, it automatically goes to the the next cutscene, so you want to get that as fast as possible. Here you get a health drop. This is a unique health drop in that it only gets about 1/3 of your health back, but it is still going to go a long way in making sure you don't die.
I hit him, he bounces right back.
As you beat the clown, you can actually sort of jump in and double tap, and sometimes you'll get an early entry like that. You can see actually in the cutscene that Spider-Man is walking into the door because it hasn't lowered yet.
Let me guess. You're trying to make
That's because the cutscene trigger is there, so by kind of contorting, it's sort of like a clip, but not really, you're just sort of contorting Spider-Man's body to try to get in. I usually just kind of double tap A while walking in, and if you're lucky, you'll get an early entry. It's not really consistent, but it's not a huge deal if you don't get it. It's just like a couple seconds difference. Sometimes you'll get it right away, sometimes it takes a few jumps, and sometimes you don't get it at all. And then we have mirrors. And mirrors are going to change a lot depending on the first second or so of how you deal with this encounter. So what you want to do is immediately turn your camera to the right and jump to this mirror. And you're going to react to what this guy does to determine what to do immediately after you jump. Let's see here.
back to normal.
Here I jump. He follows me. You see there, I did a 2-hit, I did a full 4-hit air combo on the mirror, and the last hit I actually did to punch him away. That's going to stop him from bothering me in the future.
Back to normal.
And then from there, you can continue on as normal. And if he does anything else, you can just ignore him. Now, the important thing to remember about mirrors is you want to hit every third one. The best way to do this is to jump in the air, do only 2 hits, that's all it takes to break the mirror. Then do a very slightly charged sprint jump to the next one. Kind of using that homing to your advantage and just getting a rhythm. Takes a little bit of practice, but it can be done. And it's a lot, it goes along, the speed goes a long way in keeping the other Spider-Man away from you. They simply won't be able to keep up 95+% of the time. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can just, do 3 punches on the ground. This is a lot slower, which is going to kind of leave you to the whims of the various Spider-Men. But yeah, that's more likely to be done. But that is a much more beginner-friendly strat. And so for your first runs, I maybe recommend doing that, and then afterwards you can learn to the jumping strat. Either way, once the final one is done, you want to jump across. It's across and 1 to the right is where you want to go, and then just kind of be there for when the trigger activates. I recommend kind of running around in circles to make sure you trigger it. You spawn in here, get over here, and this is actually important. You don't want to wait over by the windows here. You run to the windows straight away, they actually won't open. Because you kind of need to approach them once the trigger has loaded in properly, and then they'll finally open. But what you want to do here is, there is actually a specific bit of dialogue here that we can skip from Spider-Man, where normally the story doesn't progress until he's done talking.
It'll be too soon.
Which is a problem, because we actually are going to start off the next chapter by getting this race here. We don't want to, wait all this time for that to all load in before we can do the race. So what you want to do is wait by this bed. As soon as the trigger loads in, you can run over, get out, and then jump again. For whatever reason, there is leaving and then re-entering that trigger skips Spider-Man's dialogue, or at the very least skips the waiting for the dialogue to finish for the next chapter to start, which will then let you start the race right away. If you want to be fancy and save a few seconds, you can walk out and actually slide on the wall and wall jump into the trigger. So slide down far enough to leave the trigger, which is a few feet past the window down, and then wall jump to re-enter the trigger, which keeps your forward momentum going, and then puts you in a good spot to be closer to the race at the start of Chapter 10. Yeah, as soon as Chapter 10 starts, head over to the race here and activate it. I like to call this race the jump and web zip race because that's all you're going to do. Start by gonna sprint jump, some sprint jumps, web zip over here. Once you're close enough here, jump, web zip, another jump, this trigger, jump, web zip, jump. Don't jump too far and overshoot this building, but jump into that, and then web zip over here, and then you can jump there. If you need to, you can take a second or two to kind of get your bearings and focus the camera angle so that you don't miss this last checkpoint. But the mega time for this is 35 seconds, so it's actually pretty generous. Make sure that you hit no as normal. You can kind of get your momentum going with a web zip and then just swing your way through here. There's a few different tactics to here. I kind of like to get some height going. Do a little cheeky glide there to make that gap. Good one there. And then eventually do a big glide here to line yourself up with this tree. And as always, these are merely movement suggestions. Movement is very fluid, and you're going to make some mistakes and slight deviations from the path, or maybe you'll take an entirely different path there. Really up to you. Either way, go ahead and this change marker. In this cutscene, I don't like to mash jump to skip it, because often you will just kind of start the gameplay here by jumping, and the first few seconds of this section are actually very important. So generally, when skipping that cutscene, on non-GameCube consoles, you can click the sticks to skip the cutscene, which doesn't do it. Clicking the sticks in doesn't do anything to while you're in the game, so it's a safe way to skip the cutscene without messing up once you're in the game. But GameCube doesn't really have an equivalent, so just be careful and make sure that you don't accidentally jump on GameCube. That's a small detail though. What really matters here is the very beginning, once you load in here. You want to get that switch, destroy that switch before the field pulses and get out safely is the goal. There are a few ways to do that. You can either jump at it, hit it, and then back up. Or you could do a rising uppercut by holding attack and then fade back. I personally find this a little bit harder, but it's up to personal preference. And one thing to remember when going for the jump at the start here is that if you jump and attack immediately, it actually homes in a little bit below the switch itself. So it might cause you to kind of miss like that. Like you'll hit the ground before your attack comes out. So you do want to wait like half a second and then attack and then back up. But as long as you remember to do that, I do think it's the easier way. Anyways, once you've gotten this first switch, go ahead, back up, do a charge jump over here, and then from here it's just sort of a pattern to follow. Where you wait for it to pulse, there you might have to dodge, you go pulse, wait, pulse, go. And then it's the same every single time, all the way through. Once you've got it down and memorized, it's actually pretty easy. Once you've gotten that, skip the cutscene in the mission complete screen by mashing start, and head north. And here, the way that you approach this, or more specifically the height, is pretty important. Once you hit the middle of this street here, some robots will spawn in, and they will automatically, even during the cutscene, fly down to your height. And we want them to be as close to the street as possible, which means that you want to enter the cutscene at the street or very close. Example, like, that height is fine. Street level really is preferred, but like, that's not great. If you enter at that height or higher, you're going to end up fighting some robots that are generally more annoying to get to and fight. You can compare this to robots that attack you when you're in the middle of the street at the bottom, like this. Look, they're right down at street height. I can do forward air combos, swing between them. And even though these two are further apart you know, horizontally, vertically, they're both level, so it's pretty easy to get between them. Once you've beaten them, go ahead and skip this cutscene and head to the north. And you do fully charged sprint jump, which isn't quite going to be enough, so you can do the cheeky little swing to get you into that trigger there at the very last second. You're done there, you can swing south. I like to go up here. You can also go around instead of over this building here, but I think going over lets you retain your speed a little bit more. And just swing on down to the marker. I like to go down here and use those buildings sort of as stairs to get up. You could also go through this way, which is a little more direct. Movement might be a little bit trickier.
Hi, Betty.
And after the cutscene, as there is another mission complete screen that you can sort of time the pause on there.
Is it my fault?
And leave the Daily Bugle as usual. And then once you're out, go ahead and head north. Eventually you'll be stopped by Chapter 11.
Can things get any worse?
Couple ways to go here. I like to kind of go diagonally here, but you can either go kind of straight down this street, through here, then at some point you would start going over buildings on your way to the bank. Or you can kind of start going right more from the start. Go around this building. Over through here. And then at around the same point you would start, you know, maybe go over that building. Could go around it too. But the important thing to remember with this bank is I find that the token spawns always a little bit further north than I expected to. Usually, I feel like you'd expect it to be like here, but you know, you land here, token will spawn in, and then we have bank, which is one of the most difficult fights for beginners and more advanced people. So as usual, there will be a couple different strategies, but it's more like there's a flowchart that you're going to want to follow, and if you deviate from this flowchart, whether it's your fault or not, things are going to get a little chaotic. It really depends what Doc does at the start right here. So you're always going to jump forward in web ball, and generally you want to hit that guy. I guess it's technically that guy who just got blown up with the web ball. That's to keep the amount of moving pieces that can go wrong down, because these other two guys are gonna be a problem, but you know, you want to have one of them web balled up. You run forward, web ball. Doc Ock is moving back, and you see there I actually made the decision because Doc Ock did not attack by the time that I landed on the ground. Because of that, I decided it was safe to go for the fastest version of the strat, which is where you land and you do a very specific combo. I'm gonna do the inputs here right now: punch, jump, and then mash attack to do the air combo. I suppose I could do it on one of these guys right here as an example. That's the air combo. That does just enough damage to take Doc Ock out in this section. See if I can get a fully fluid example. There you go. And generally you want to hold forward while you're doing this combo, because if you don't, one of the attacks might whiff, and then you might have to go do some more damage. But that's not always what's going to happen. That is the optimal outcome. That's what you want to have happen. It's not what's going to happen every time. Sometimes, like that, he goes for an attack right off the bat. And in that case, you want to web up all the tentacles. And now he is vulnerable. I've webbed up all the tentacles, and I can do the same combo that I did before.
Still, not one for which I am wholly confident.
All right.
Now, that is the second best thing that could happen. We still got Doc Ock pretty quickly with no issues, and we were still following that flowchart.
Stop right there, Doctor.
If Doc Ock goes for his slap attack, you can't actually tank the hit and go for the combo just as you would as if he didn't do attack in the first place. The only concerns there are whether you have enough health, as well as the reacting to it in the first place is a little bit difficult. So there's no shame in tying him up as if he went for a grab attack when he does the slap. A lot of the times, whether it's your own skill or just something else might go wrong. For example, sometimes you're webbing this guy up and one of the other goons comes in and grabs you or attacks you or something, and Doc Ock gets away. In that case, you are kind of on your own. And what I mean by that is there is no like good setup to get damage on Doc Ock. You instead have a few different things that you can go for. I recommend locking onto Doc Ock because the homing attacks of Spider-Man tend to like to home in on Doc Ock's thugs instead of him. So what I recommend is being agile. I like to just go in and do some slow-mo air combos, and maybe I'll do a couple and then get out. Sometimes they'll grab you. Like I said, you really have to wing it and just hope it goes well. Like I said, I went for a non-slow-mo attack there. It didn't quite work out. Went for some hits there. It didn't work out. This might be your experience. But you want to find that damage one way or the other. The only thing to take into consideration with the slow-mo is look at my slow-mo bar. It's very low. It's not full, which means that I'm going to be doing less damage to these goons up here. Which will just mean the fight here will take a little bit longer. It's not a huge deal. But let's assume that everything went well. You can start off this fight by running in and just hero punch. Ideally, you hit all three of them, and then you can just do it again. You don't want to do it 3 times usually. By that point, they are sort of broken up. Yeah, go in, go for the hero punch. Sometimes you don't hit them all, and that's fine. And from there, you just kind of want to air combo these guys. Try not to get grabbed by them. Try not to run into their explosions. And you should be fine. Sometimes this hallway can be a little bit tricky. And there is actually a particular strat with this hallway where you slide cancel, kick them. It seems to only work when you are in like the corner of the hall, like right up here in the corner. I'll have a video of that playing because I don't want to. That's really a once in a blue moon thing, but it can be fun and fast to do that if you get to the specific situation. Anyways, once you're done with those, it is time to chase a helicopter, quote unquote. And the thing here is actually, depending on your skill level, you are going to go for one of a couple different strats. Because we do still need more hero points to finish out the chapter, and you can get 1 to 2 tokens on this chase, depending on how much you want to go for. I'm going to start by showing off the 2 token strat. And notice how I actually trigger the helicopter there. I trigger it by falling down. Now I have this downward momentum to go with, and then I have more speed to work with. So if you're going for 2 token, which I highly recommend having practiced before you even attempt something like this, otherwise you might just lose more time than you're trying to save, go in here, get the token in there, get out, swing over here, get this token, and then after web zipping yourself on track, you can just kind of keep up with the helicopter. The number to look out for is 250. If the helicopter is further than 250 units away from you, you fail. Something else worth noting is maybe if you mess up the beginning and you need more extra time, you can do some slow-mo. I like to do it during this section because the inputs are pretty simple. And then do as much as you really need. You make sure that you don't fail the mission. You could maybe do it here too if you're like, oh no, I really need to not fail. Remember, it's faster to do a 2 token with slow-mo than to fail a 2 token. If that seems a little hard for you, you could go for 1 token. It's a lot more simple. Simply swing up here, and get this. Just get this token. Don't worry about that first one. And then it's the same. Just, you know, don't fall too far behind. And if you really don't want to worry about it, you can do 0 tokens. That works too. You're just, you know, this is your first run or something, you don't want to worry about it, those extra few seconds of time saved. There are backup tokens for both of these, which I will show right after this. Anyways, after the cutscene, go ahead, I like to swing off of these side buildings. And you want to hit the trigger on the ground, because you notice trigger doesn't actually pop until you get down there, so try to line up your swings to go there. After the cutscene and the mission complete thing, you can just rotate your camera this way, and then head here. Kind of want to remember that so you don't get lost. And then
blames me for Rosie's death.
Go ahead and get this race.
I can't say I'm so
Now this is another race, again, you have to mega time it. This one is a little bit on the harder side for sure, especially for beginners. But I recommend doing your swings. You notice I'm doing a lot of charging my jump, like between the swings, which I normally don't do to keep speed, but that helps keep my height level. You're going for under 12 seconds on this, which, like I said, is a little bit more difficult, but definitely doable. And afterwards, if you did 2 token, you don't have to worry about this at all. You'll simply start the chapter right away. But if you did 0 token, get this token. And also this token. If you only did 1 token, then this is the only token you need to worry about. Either way, that's just going to get you enough hero points to bump you into the next chapter. And like I said, don't have to worry about that at all if you did 2 token. Now for this chapter, I'd like to gain some height. I like to do a glide here, because there's not a lot of building to go around when you're swinging. And again, we are just swinging towards the objective. At some point, you want to kind of break off from the road and go diagonally across these buildings. It can be a little tricky. And then here, there is a token right here that you want to make sure you get. You can either get it... There's a couple ways you can approach the token. You know, you could swing past and web zip to it. You could do that wall jump like I did earlier. So you get the token, you want to jump to Peter's balcony. I like to just hold climb and kind of fade towards it. If you're really good, you can jump straight onto the balcony. Like so. Doesn't really matter. Hit the trigger. Sometimes there can be a soft lock there where that cutscene just won't, or that cutscene trigger just won't spawn, in which case you kind of have to save and load to make it work, but that's very, very rare, because it only happened to me a couple times ever. Yeah, just swing across here. The path here can be a little bit weird. I kind of like to go diagonally across here because there's not really a good way to take a road with like straight easy swings here. There is a specific technique you can do here. There's actually a couple places you could do it in, but I feel like this is maybe the best one. You approach here, if you know how to do a swing boosted slide jump, you can do one there to get the height. Get up here. Doesn't really matter how you do it. You can also just do a wall sprint jump. Either way, going for another cat chase. Here you want to jump down here and get the secret token right away. Do it pretty fast because you could fail this chase if you're too slow. And do keep in mind that jump tends to give you a little bit of fall damage. So if you need to cling to the wall to cancel that, that would be a good time to do that. From there, just sort of follow this path. Try to make it for the waiting points here. Keep close to cat for that rubber banding. And then at this point, you're going to break off. And this is a pretty tense section, especially for new players. You want to go in the construction through this here. There is a token down here, as well as a token up here. and it could be very easily get stuck in your movement and mess up there and fail both and have to restart. I'd recommend trying to mimic that, practice that. Try not to climb and get stuck in like climbing animations too much in that situation. That's all the advice I can really get. A little bit of practice will do you good, and eventually you stop worrying about it at all. From there, just follow Black Cat as such. The movement does get a little bit more difficult than previous cat chases to kind of keep up with her, but you know, over time through runs you will learn where to go pretty easily and keep up with her. Once she reaches here, you can break off again, get another token, and then meet back up over here. And you're only breaking off for those tokens, because it is still faster to get the tokens during this chase, since we're don't have too much else better to do, even though you do want to keep as close to Black Cat as possible to keep her moving faster otherwise. And one final time, we're going to break off to go into the disco here and get the last token. Meet back up with her here, and then drop down for the end. Another mission, you can mash start to skip that mission complete screen like most of them. And then here is one of the most important parts of the run to remember, which is shocker skip. As you see here, there is a cutscene trigger here to start the shocker fight, which is a very long fight that is kind of difficult to do fast and takes a few minutes. But let's not do that. Instead, I want you to think of the trigger. You can sort of think of the trigger as a hitbox, and I'm going to have a little visual drawing over it to show sort of where the hitbox for the cutscene is. It's won't be exact, but good enough to think about. Got that in your mind, and we want to go through the gap in that trigger. The way to do this is to get on the wall and climb through it, and there's a couple ways you can do it. I like to just climb up to the wall, and whatever the height it gives me, I just sort of line myself up just below the corner. You don't want to go straight for the corner. If you go straight for the corner, it'll often just like clip you downwards, and then you'll fail it. And you want to be very precise with that. So I like to line myself just with the bottom, like just below the corner there, and then just climb straight. Just hold straight forward and climb through. You can clip on the left side, but you know it spawns you closer to the right, so you might as well go right side. Another tactic is to sort of get yourself further up on the wall and take the time to line yourself up that way. I personally find this to take longer and be a little bit harder, but some people think it's easier. Up to you, really. Either way, you want to get in there. Make sure that you don't trigger that cutscene. And if you do trigger the cutscene, you can actually save and load to give yourself another shot. I recommend just getting it first try, but obviously that's not going to work every time. Even after having done it for a long time, I still mess it up every once in a while. This is a nice backup to be able to do. You can see it puts it right there, which is a nice thing for a little side note. Saving and loading seems to be very slow on Xbox 360 in particular, while otherwise being the best console. So keep that in mind. There is also an alternate version of doing shocker skip that at the moment is GameCube only, and that involves getting to the load trigger before the room itself loads in. So we'll see what I mean by that here. So you finish the cat chase, and then your time is essential here. You need to get to the gate as soon as you possibly can. If you get there fast enough, you'll actually get there before the room loads in which case you can just run through the trigger before it's even there. At the moment, this is GameCube only because of its slow load times. It might work on some models of PS2, but at the moment is pretty much deconfirmed on Xbox. But that is a faster way of doing shocker skip that you can only do on GameCube.
I don't know how.
And if you don't do it fast enough, if you don't get to the gate fast enough, instead you won't be able to get in. there is this sort of invisible wall that is here until the actual area loads in. So if you hit that wall, that means you didn't do it fast enough. But if you are on GameCube, you might as well go for it because, I mean, you will hit that invisible wall, so you know you missed it. So there's no reason to not go for it. But anyways, once you're out, jump across and to Shocker. And you want to damage Shocker a very specific amount. Because if you kill Shocker before activating the fight, you will soft lock.
How's your absorbency compared with the leading brand? Careful, cat. You'll hurt his feelings.
You see, I completely took out Shocker's health, enter the cutscene, and he is just sort of ragdolling there. Which you would have to save and load to get out of. Here's what you want to do to damage Shocker. Count your air combos. So that's 1. That's 2.
Are you wearing a girdle?
3.
Real slow and dumb, I see.
4.
Are you wearing a girdle?
5. And then do 1 kick and swing into the trigger.
Spider-Man.
That will get you to the amount of health where he will die pretty much instantly to 1 air combo. And remember when you're comboing him to keep an eye on that slow-mo bar, because if for whatever reason you don't have full, then you're going to be doing less damage. So make sure you take that into account. And you notice that I'm actually comboing Shocker towards the cutscene trigger. That's because I want him as close as possible to it when I start the fight, because even at such low health, Shocker can be kind of annoying to deal with. He likes to just jump away a lot. Or sometimes he'll like snipe you with a shot, which will slow you down and kind of put you in this weird slowed air state. Sometimes he'll knock you away like that. You really just want to take Shocker out. If you can, I like to snipe him out of the air when he jumps like that. Take him out just immediately. And then, as soon as you're done, go ahead and leave. So generally start chapter 13 right after you leave. Now here in chapter 13, I'm going to start by heading to this shop right here. And here's where you have a decision to make. You're always going to want to buy Swing Speed 8 for faster swings. It's just straight up worth it. Don't actually need to finish the game, but definitely worth it. And then what you do after that is up to you. You can either just leave the shop and continue, or you can go over here, maybe buy some health if you really need it, and get Rising Shoulder Charge, which is a tool that makes the final boss a little bit more consistent. But you are giving up the time that it takes to scroll over and buy that. So generally, if you want to be safe and secure a run that you're like really far ahead on, maybe pick up Rising Shoulder Charge. And if those few seconds of scrolling over to buy it are worth it to you, then don't bother. But either way, go ahead and leave and swing across here. And at some point you want to link up with this road here. I like to do it here and then swing across this little park, but up to you. You could go a street further down. Gain height up here to get to the bugle. Once you're in, you're going to do the same thing that you always do when you enter the bugle, which is leave. You can get a bathroom respawn here as well, which is notable. It'd save a couple seconds, but not a big deal if it doesn't. From there, I kind of like to go across here, over this building, to line myself up with the Speedy Mart here, which is being invaded by Mysterio. For Mysterio, very complicated boss fight. The only thing that actually matters for Mysterio, if you notice, is that you press the attack button in his vicinity. You don't have to hit him. Like, watch this. I just pressed the attack button while near him, and he fell over. So with that in mind, you can either jump at him or do an uppercut and hit him. It doesn't really matter. I'm sure one of them is faster by like a couple frames. And from there, swing across. I like to get myself to a height where I can swing off this building here to get pretty cleanly onto the Daily Bugle. Otherwise, it can be kind of awkward to get up.
Better change while no one is around.
Anyways, like usual, enter the bugle, leave the bugle. And then we're going to do a twist to the enter the bugle, leave the bugle, which is as soon as it down warps you here, you are going to go back into the bugle. The trigger for the black cat chase, and now unlike the other black cat chases, there is actually a skip for this one. What you want to do is line yourself up like so, where you're running up into here, which will let you actually clip into the Daily Bugle. You want to do that pretty fast so that you don't fail the black cat chase, but as you saw there is a bit of leniency for sure. Once you're in, you can leave right away, because entering the bugle seems to break Black Cat's AI, thinking that she is further in the chase than she is, and it sort of unlocks you from the chase. So from here, we can actually go as far as we want. And we're going to get some tokens while doing so. There are 4 tokens on this route, and we need 3 of them. So I'm going to show all of them. Just make sure that you don't get all of them. Pick the one that you like the least, and don't get that one maybe. There's this one here. There's another one here. I usually like to skip this one and just, keep swinging that way, but there is one right here that you could get. There's a token in the warehouse here. And finally, there is this one under the bridge. Now, because you only need 3, I'm not going to get this last one. Usually I do. Usually I like to skip the one that's underneath that one building. But it doesn't really matter, up to you. And then run over here, which will end the black cat chase, since the trigger is still active. Once you load in here, there is another shocker fight, which is even longer than the previous shocker fight. Fortunately, there is a skip for this one too. So standing here, you can consider the cutscene trigger. Roughly, I would say it's like around here. It's not triggering it. There it is. Yeah, the cutscene trigger is basically at the door to enter the room. Rather than completely avoiding the cutscene trigger, you actually want to enter the room with like a certain animation to kind of bypass it. So jump to the ceiling here. And you're going to walk onto this lip and then tap up to crawl over. Look at the input display for this one. Crawl over, I tap up, let it reset to neutral. That's all you need to do. From there you can jump out. And it doesn't really matter whether you sprint over or crawl over normally. All that matters is you tap up, because if you hold up, you're really, most of the time that's going to happen. It's going to fail. For whatever reason, doing a solid tap up will let you crawl over. Of note, if you don't tap long enough, you'll do like a slight crawl, and then kind of have to angle it differently for it to work, because now, the camera is going to change. So I recommend kind of learn, it's not an instant tap. It's just you're holding down for like 1/10 of a second. And then you let it reset to neutral. Anyways, once you're over, go out. I should note that if you do fail this shocker skip, you're in a worse spot than if you fail the previous one. I personally find it easier, but if you fail, saving and loading will actually take you to the beginning of the cat chase. So the stakes are higher for this one. Anyways, you're going to do the same amount of damage to this shocker as the previous one. So sometimes that actually happens where you go to hit shocker, and for whatever reason the combo doesn't start. And I recommend just keep calm, proceed as normal, and sort of remember that, I've done 1 extra spin kick, so that's 2 combos. Here's 3 combos, 4. That's 5. And shocker can actually take a little bit more beating than the 5 hits and 1 spin kick that I recommend. You can actually take 3 spin kicks, so 1 more spin kick here should kill him. So you have that extra allowance, that extra fluidity. But once you've done the damage, you need to here enter the door and leave again to start the fight, and then just run up and hit him. There's not really the same chance of Shocker getting away
If only all my problems could be
as in the
settled
previous
by
fight.
magic battles.
So you don't have to be as concerned about like getting to him fast, but you still want to do that to save time anyways. Anyways, swing over here at some point. Chapter 14 starts. And we're getting pretty close to the end. Got a couple more chapters though.
Mary Jane's
Swing
play.
over
Maybe I can
here,
help tonight.
cross the bridge. At some point, Peter remembers where to go, and we are going to head that way. I recommend getting some height here to clear this gap, and just keep getting height here. Going over this park rather than through it is so much nicer. And you get to go over these buildings, and then you can kind of just drop down on the trigger up here. But I will show you an alternate route. So if you're having a hard time getting the height you need to sort of get over this building for whatever reason, yeah, you can go through here, and then sort of across here, and then up through here. It is a little bit slower, but still works just fine. However, you get here, you're going to do one more fight here.
Can't believe I'm
I like to start this fight off by charging a hero punch. It is a little bit of a gamble. The important thing that you want to go for is knocking down this guy here with a headband, because he is the one that is most annoying. He blocks the most. He's the only one who blocks. So getting him with that punch is going to be what you want to happen. It won't always happen, because he can, like I said, he blocks, so sometimes he just blocks the hero punch, in which case I recommend getting a web ball out on him, and then taking him out. The best way to take him out, if you don't get the hero punch on him, would be probably to do a full hit air combo, and then, as you're falling after the combo, like, web him to the side. That'll be just enough damage to take him out. But if you're low on health, which a lot of runs will be pretty low on health here, and the hero punch doesn't work out, it actually worked out that time, you want to focus on the girl. She is the one with the gun and is the most likely to kill you in this situation. So those are your general targets. Hero punch doesn't work out. You want to be really safe, you can web them all up and then just sort of take them out one by one, however you wish to, generally with air combos. And here's an example of the hero punch working. However you do that fight, as soon as you spawn in afterwards, you are going to get a health drop. I recommend waiting for it, unless you really need those like 2 frames. And then swing sort of here. You want to go to this building here. It's probably the best path to take to do it, and then get as high as you possibly can
guess I should go.
before it loads in. You're lucky you're pretty much right there when it does. Though that can depend on what console you're playing on. Now, unlike the previous cat chases, here we have a cat race, where you just want to swing as fast as you can. And you do want to beat cat on this race. I like to do a glide here to get across this gap, so that I can approach this from straight on, rather than having to wrap around. Yes, if you win the race, you get a bonus 500 hero points, which we're going to need. If you don't, or actually if you die in the fight after this, you will lose those hero points, but I will give you a backup for that, so no need to worry.
Alright, let's get going.
Anyways, this fight can be kind of a mess. I like to start by backing up and going for this sniper back here. From there, usually there's a guy or two coming over to get you. You can air combo this guy. In this case, it was just him who came over. And remember those, that swing cancel, the swing cancel spinning kicks that I talked about back in the Rhino fight? Yeah, those work to get best against these robots. I will give you an alternate strat to fight them after this. After I show off this fight, I'm going to show you just a couple fights to kind of show. This fight is a lot of adaptation. For example, normally I would want to kill this guy before moving over, but he just he didn't notice me coming over before, so he stayed here. Take this guy out. Ideally, the cat spends a lot of time distracting the robots here and getting them to shoot each other, so that you'll have to do less health over here.
At least it was.
Here, this might be an alternate take on this fight. The sniper over here, and now I've got a couple guys over here. I decided to take the robot out first this time, but you don't need to. This bald guy here with eye patch tends to block a lot, so I like to web ball him up first before getting him. You do want to take the snipers out. They pretty early, like you see right there. They do a third of your health with each shot, which health is a very valuable resource this late in the game.
That armor's nice. Or at least it was.
Let's say that you don't want to bother with swing cancel kicks because the input is actually pretty difficult for them. There is a very simple alternative that's still pretty fast, where you get behind them or in front, and you want to hero punch uppercut. And you see, all I'm doing is holding jump and mashing punch, and it just loops it automatically. And that's a very simple, pretty easy way to take them out. A little bit slower than the swing cancels, but much easier. And you actually see in the mission results screen here, beat Black Cat to the warehouse. I did get those extra 500 hero points. And if you did that, and if you're, so there are two, there's a sort of a diverging path here depending on your situation. If you like how much health you have, and you did get the points from beating Black Cat, and you didn't lose them from dying in that fight, then you can go for a dialogue skip here. You jump over here, and then listen to the lines that Spider-Man goes in. They are being interrupted each time that you land in the water.
What about the people in my life? Isn't like anyone ever
Saves a few seconds. And generally, I listen for a specific line where he says, "No, I can't quit," and that's when I
No
stop.
matter how hard it is, I can't abandon my friends. So, what? Do I quit being... No, I can't quit either.
That one right there.
Help so many people.
And from there, I want to swing straight as fast as I can. Because I did skip most of the dialogue, but not all of it. And as soon as that dialogue ends, the next trigger is going to spawn, and I want to be there when it is.
I should track down Black Cat.
I want to be right here for Black Cat when she spawns in. And when starting Scuba Skip here, you do want to sort. The first line you want to cancel is
give up Peter Parker to be Spider-Man? What about
line right there. Do I want to give up Peter Parker to be Spider-Man? You want to start with that one.
Isn't like anyone ever...
That would look something like this.
Is Cat right? Am I just torturing myself? Do I what about the people in my life? How would they feel?
Let's say that you are not happy with your health, or you missed the hero points from the Black Cat chase, either by dying or failing the chase.
Peter Parker to be Spider-Man? What about the people in my life?
Instead of skipping the dialogue with the scuba dialogue skip that I just showed, you can instead get this token here, which I'm not going to get because I do have the points. And then you would swing over here.
No matter how hard it is, I can't abandon my friends.
Little alley in here. Get that token as well.
What, do I quit being Spider-Man?
And then, since you have some time, you could go to the shop here and buy some health if you need to. That, I mean, it takes the amount of time that it takes to go through the menu and buy the health, as well as, you know, any time that you're taking by not going for scuba skip, which is like 5 or 6 seconds maybe. But either way, going to end up here for this cutscene trigger.
I should track down Black Cat. I need to have a talk with her.
The cutscene.
I can balance both. Maybe it isn't too late.
To swing over here and then take the road south. I like to go over this building. You can kind of go around and then link up with the street that way, but definitely a little bit faster to go over. And then get here for this token. And now this is important. As soon as you spawn in, you're not free yet. You want to head down south again.
What was I thinking? I must have looked
Go on top of the theater. There is one last token we're gonna grab.
What about the danger?
And then keep moving south.
Out of my mind.
There's not anything we're gonna grab down here. Or to skip the mission complete screen, but you do want to get pretty much to the Oscorp building. Make sure that it's like loaded and visible. This building right here. This is because the cutscene is going to load a shot of this building, and it loads way faster if you move there first. You're basically loading the cutscene in advance, so that's going to save a few seconds on loading. Anyways, afterwards you're going to spawn in front of the shop. You could, you know, jump in and buy the stuff there then if you forgot to earlier. But just head this way. Eventually we will start the final chapter, chapter 15. I like to go diagonally over these buildings. I will show you an alternate route you could take. That could be useful as well, but eventually you're going to kind of end up swinging by the streets anyways. We're just going to head to Peter's apartment here.
I need to apologize to MJ next time I see her.
Here's that alternate route. You can instead sort of take the street level. And then as soon as you hit the park here, go across. And eventually you're going to take this street here. And then kind of sneak in through this crack.
I need to apologize.
However you get here, there is this trigger is a little unique. You don't actually need to go into Peter's apartment. You just need to get kind of close. You see there, the trigger disappears, and from there it doesn't matter. I've hit the trigger, and it will eventually load.
Hi, Peter.
So surprisingly generous there. Anyways, after that, we're going to head this way. We want to get the height to clear this gap here. And same with this one here. And then get here. It can be a little tricky trying to get in this little gap in the building here, but keep that in mind and get to the changed icon there. This section here, you also want to gain a bit of height. You can kind of do this however you like to as well. These days I tend to go right a little early and then line myself up with this road. And then you want to do a big glide off this one if you know how to do that. Otherwise, just swinging normally is fine. And then however you get there, you're gonna get to this icon here. And now we're here at the train fight. And this fight can go very differently depending on how Doc Ock is feeling, but generally the strategy that you're going to go for is to do sprint jumps at him, and go for aerial slow-mo hits. Ideally you want to hit him when he's on the ground like that, because it kind of, sometimes it tends to break his AI. I'll see if I can get a clip of that to happen. But yeah, it's pretty simple in concept, pretty difficult in execution to get all these kicks off at him. And you also want to keep in mind the attacks he's doing. So I like to lock on. If he's going for the slap attack, you can usually ignore it. If he goes for a grab, you want to dodge, which will sort of send you back, and then you might have to reset, get out of slow-mo. He's on the ground like that. See, he is locked on the ground now. See if I can get a longer clip of it happening. Yeah, for whatever reason, when you hit him on the ground like that, he will just get in that weird, animation where he's just kind of jumping up and down on the ground. You obviously don't want to get hit by the train like that. But when he's like that, he's completely vulnerable for however long he stays like that, usually a few seconds, which is, prime time to get a few free hits out. And if the whole sprint jump slow-mo attack thing is a little rough, especially just going in blind like that, what we would call a zero cycle, you could also web him up and go for the hits like that. Or you can go for 3-hit punches.
Sex like you must be squandering moves. Did Rosie do anything? Did she?
Or you could go for hero punches. Any of those work. But the latter two are obviously a little bit slower.
I didn't kill your wife.
And once you've taken him out, we're going to go into one final bit of swinging before the last sections of the game. And for this swinging, if you want for the slow-mo kicks, you're going to want to make your swings clean, if that makes sense, because if you look at my slow-mo bar, it's not full. I want that slow-mo bar to be full or pretty close by the last fight. You know, I'm going to be going for very smooth swings. But the more important than that is the route that you take here. You want to wait at the start because you're always going to be teleported away for some reason. There's no way around that. So once you load in here, jump across, get the swing going, and you want to glide there for more advanced movement. That is very, very nice to be able to do to clear that gap. And then you can kind of go take this path here to get a straight shot over to the warehouse. Go ahead and hop in. Once you're in, it's time for switches. And this is another one where the first few seconds and really through the whole way effective movement is going to make or break this. I like to spawn in, walk over, and then from there you can kind of just ignore Doc Ock and wall sprint up. Land on. You can't actually hit the switches in your landing animation. Pretty much all that it matters is you press the right button when you're near the switch. Let's see like a good intro for that. There are a few cycles that you can either make or not make depending on how fast or slow you are going for this. I'm gonna start by showing off the faster one. You get in here before that first pulse. Then you would jump across here. And doing it this fast takes a lot of practice. So I would recommend for your first few runs, you don't need to really worry. Just go as fast as you can. If you get bonked there, that's fine, for example. You can always just get back up and go across. Not too much would change from there. Ideally, if you're fast enough, you wouldn't need to bonk, and you wouldn't. If you're fast enough, you can actually get down here before that pulse. So if you were maybe a little bit slower, you could crawl out of the wall sprint, make this a little bit more safe, and then, you know, let's say you didn't make this cycle. If you bonked or wait for the pulse, if you didn't want to take the damage, that's also fine. I recommend dodging whenever your head flashes, preferably in the air so you keep your momentum. You can jump over here. Get this. Jump up here. Get that one. Jump across here. You see I hurt my head flashed and I dodged in the air.
Reactor doesn't seem to be responding.
However you get those should be fine. You don't need to be too afraid of the pulse field. It doesn't do very much damage, and in some situations it might actually, you know, launch you towards, say, this switch, for example. So there's no need to be too afraid of it. Obviously keep track of that health, and it's better to, you know, jump there fast enough that you don't have to worry about it, but something to keep in mind. This last jump kind of tends to scare people. There's nothing to be really too scared of, other than maybe this pulse here, which can bonk you into the ocean if your cycle is wrong. But for the most part, you can kind of just jump and web zip. Pretty much any timing of the web zip will work as long as it's like on the latter half of it. Sometimes if you do it too early, that might happen. But really just, you know, wait until you're pretty far along in the jump and do the web zip and you should be fine. Go ahead and hit that last switch and we will enter the last boss.
Wait a second.
So for this boss, I like to start by locking on. Flip over here while having your jump charged, then get within range, and as soon as you are, you hero punch, dodge his attack right after, and you hero punch again, and you just keep him looped like this. You like those knockdowns. Make sure that you're holding forwards when you jump away like that, or you go too far, and you can loop him all the way through to the end. Now sometimes Doc Ock will get away from you. Whatever reason, he'll end up getting high in the air like that. If you didn't buy Rising Shoulder Charge earlier, the solution here is to web him up so that he is no longer in the air, in which case you would loop him with hero punches like normal. Now if you bought Rising Shoulder Charge, you can actually hit him with a Rising Shoulder Charge, which will get him into the air, and then you can continue looping like that. And if you really want to be fancy with Rising Shoulder Charge, he lands on the ground, you can go for that combo, which does a lot of damage. The gist of the combo is to have another hero punch ready, uppercut into it, jump out of that, and then do a slow-mo combo similar to the ones that you did on the Art Gallery Thugs earlier if you used that strat. But that is very advanced and very cool, but very advanced a way to finish him off. You can also do that combo on reaction, like you just saw there. If he doesn't, if you knock him down and he doesn't go for an attack for long enough, you might just have the time to go for something like that. Another way that you can get Doc Ock out of the air is to hit him with an aerial hit or two, and then from there you can go back into looping him with Hero Punch. And this is especially useful because you don't need to have the Rising Shoulder Charge upgrade to do that strat, but it is a little bit more difficult. Anyways, if those previous strats scare you, there really is no shame, especially if you're a beginner, to just sort of tie him up.
Stand still, you coward.
Hit him with a Euro Punch, maybe get a couple in, and then tie him up again, you know. Whatever you need to do to finish out a run. But however you decide to take out Doc Ock, timing ends on that final hit. Once you're done with the run, make sure you hit your final split, and that's really all you need to do. I think it's kind of customary to watch the final cinematic video on the last cutscene. Do keep in mind though that the credits are DMCA, so maybe skip those.
Get the young lady out. I'm sorry.
I'm not going to it this time. Not gonna watch it this time, but once you're out, you don't have to, but it is customary to go ahead and get your in-game time. In this case, it was a 1:11:16, pretty good. And you can input that when you submit it to the Speedrun.com leaderboards, but you don't need to. If you don't have that or you forgot to do it, whatever, that's fine. I should also note about some community resources. There is obviously the Speedrun.com leaderboard, where you will submit your runs once you know, if you've video recorded your runs. I highly recommend posting them there. You know, having other people on the leaderboard, you know, gives that sense of community and lets us check out your run and see it easier. I also figured I'd sort of, you know, walk you through the process of submitting your run to the leaderboard once you're done. It is, maybe you don't know, or maybe it's a little bit daunting to you, but it's really not that complicated. You just go to speedrun.com/sm2, or just look up the game on the site, and then we're headed over to the any percent category, which is the default one. If you got some other category you wanted to run, those are all available. But right now, you know, we're going to pretend that we're submitting to 80%. So, I mean, first you want to check the rules, make sure that you are following all the rules, you know. Timing starts on enter, last hit on Doc Ock. Actually a typo there, I'm going to have to fix that. Noise create, obvious stuff. Does mention that you need, basically, if your run is under an hour 25, just, you know, the video like actually works. It's like not webcam pointed at a TV, you know, no missing video. Pretty standard, and also we're pretty loose on that rule anyways. But you just click submit run here. And here we would select the category. You would say that you are player 1, and it'll automatically fill in your profile. Or if you wanted to, you can type it out. That doesn't matter. And you put in your time. Let's say we got, I think the time was like a 1:11. Let's pretend it's a 1:11:25. And then if we had the in-game time, usually that's a little bit shorter, so you'd get that from your video, and if you put the in-game time in, please have it in the video. Let's say 1:10:15, for example. That's probably wouldn't line up exactly to that, but fine. This is where you'd select if you're either on console or emulator. Pretty self-explanatory. Your region, which version of the game you have. You don't have to put this in, but most people are going to have the USA and TSC version. Platform, let's say GameCube. And then this is where you'd put your video link in. So either, a stream highlight of some sort or like a YouTube upload. You do need that. Your Splits.io link, that's sort of an optional thing. There's this website called Splits.io that you can put your splits up on for more data, but don't need to worry about that for the most part unless you're interested in that type of stuff. And then anything you have to say about the run, you can put in here. But if you don't, then you would click submit. This button won't show to you because this is for moderators only. And I'm not going to hit submit, but you would just hit submit, and then it would take a couple days maybe. It really depends on how fast I can get around to it. But I'm not the only moderator, so. Within a few days, your run will be reviewed, and then you'd pop up on the leaderboard. And so there you go. There's how you submit your run to speedrun.com. There is also the Discord. There is a Spider-Man speedrunning Discord, which I'll have linked in the description. And we have a Toby2 channel on that, which is for discussion on this game. So if you want to discuss this game speedrun or any other Spider-Man game speedrun, that's the place to go. And as with any speed game, new things are discovered every once in a while. So if you're watching the world record or something and you see a strat that you don't see here, it was probably found later or made viable later. In which case you could learn the strat by watching, or perhaps there's a guide out for that strat. Or you could ask around the community Discord for something like that. And if there are any completely new strats that really change a lot, I will try to remember to post a comment and pin it detailing said strat. Or maybe this tutorial is like a decade old when you're watching it. It's like 2035, and maybe there's a newer version of this guide out by then. And that's pretty much it. Hope that this helped. Hopefully you can you can get some new people to try out this awesome speedrun. And if you have any further questions, you can put them in the comments, or there is also the Spider-Man speedrunning Discord. You could ask the Toby2 channel in there, put your questions in there, or just show off your splits or PB or whatever. If you found this video helpful or enjoyable in any way, I would appreciate maybe giving me a sub. I do stream here on YouTube, doing runs and among other things. So, and it would mean a lot. It would help me out. Maybe do all the other algorithm stuff, like like the video, comment, whatever it is you need to do. Yeah, that's pretty much it, and we have fun on your first runs. Peace.